Welcome back to J&R Books.
Alright, so today we have a very special guest. Introducing Mr. Adnan. Wow! Could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Adnan. I'm Angelo's father. I'm born in Sophie and grew up in Germany. I'm 62 years old and since 2008 I'm living in Shanghai. I'm process engineer.
Oh, thank you. That was gotta be one of the calmest intros ever. You guys might recall Angelo from our video about guess the plot, when we're trying to guess Today we're gonna talk about Sophie's World
By Jostein
Gaarder.
I only remember the last name because that was interesting. It was like Gaarder. There's no N. It's just Gaarder.
Oh, Gaarder. Oh, it's just Jostein. Yeah, it's a Norwegian author.
Yeah.
Anything this is translated to copy. But Mr. Adnan, if you could just talk about the book to us briefly, what's it about?
Okay, good. Sophie's World. It's a long time ago that I read this book. I try to remember what I still remember. Yeah, actually, it's talking about, let's say, 4 main characters, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Sophie itself. Sophie is 14 years old and she's trying to understand philosophy and trying to understand herself, to find herself. Yeah. Then there's Albertus Knox, right?
Mm-hmm.
He is a teacher of Sophie. It's a mystical teacher. He tried to explore philosophy,
Right.
a little bit different,
Mm-hmm.
on a way that maybe kids can understand.
Yeah, it's as the book says, it's in the story, the teacher's trying to pull Sophie out of when she was snuggling deep in the rabbit's fur.
Yeah.
She's trying to make her see what the magic trick is actually happening.
When I was reading the book, I thought Alberto was the ideal philosopher because he also wanted to he was open to learning from Sophie.
Yeah.
And when after Sophie learned more about philosophy, and after she became her own philosopher, they started learning off each other.
I guess a lot of people, a lot of kids our age, because we're 14 the time we're recording, Ryan and I, they might just think, oh, philosophy, this is kind of boring, okay, wow. I don't get why this book is so exciting, but it's just you guys should really try out this book because it's, in one word, kind of magical. It's the way the author just describes the book and kind of lays out philosophy doesn't feel the quote unquote stereotypical philosophy that kids these days are kind of accustomed to. It's they're philosophy, boring, whatever,
Yeah.
right? But it's just a really, I guess, fun and mystical way almost. It's kind of in a way, it's not fantasy, I shouldn't say fantasy, but kind of.
It's a fiction.
Yeah, it's fiction.
Definitely
right?
fiction.
Yeah, it's it's not a boring book about the history of philosophy. It's
I think there's a common reoccurrence with all the books we showcase on this channel.
Yeah.
It's very unique for its genre.
yeah, exactly. I agree a lot.
Water. Well, what was I gonna say? Well, yeah. Unique, very similar to the other books we did. And so how it introduces philosophy. I mean, the whole book itself is technically it's
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
the whole book is a book, and
Correct.
and who knows, we might be in a book right now. I don't know.
Correct. Foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah.
And I think that's very interesting, right? And it's a good way to introduce philosophy and it's make it, I guess, more understandable for a lot of people.
Did you finish the book already?
He's in the process of finishing.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
But you read already, right?
Yeah, I read it.
So
once
You read
and
2
then-
times already.
No, I'm reading it the second time. I haven't finished,
I
I haven't reread it.
what is very interesting in this book is we have, let's say, 2 main characters, Sophie and Alberto Knox,
Yeah.
right? And Alberto Knack. Albert Knack, right? Albert Knack is the creator of Sophie.
Yeah.
The good thing is that Albert writes a book for his daughter, right? Create Sophie and Alberto Knack.
Yeah.
And the funny on this book is then the daughter of Albert Knox, Hilde, which we mentioned before, right? Hilde recognized Sophie, right? And Alberto, and she tried to, let's say, to modify or mix rebel. I think rebel is the right word to Sophie. So Sophie and Hilde get connected each other.
Right.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
this is something which is a fiction, right?
Right.
In reality, if you're reading book, you cannot be merged with someone, right? And then Sophie understands herself.
Right.
So that means she get a free will, right?
Free will.
Yeah, in a way, yes.
I mean,
Right?
sure.
So that means the book will actually tell you, do we have our own awareness?
Yeah.
Are we aware about our life? Who's controlling us?
Right.
So,
Are we in the matrix?
that's a very good point.
Are we under control on our emotions? We talk with Angelo many times, awaken. I like this wake.
Oh,
What? Awaken.
awaken, yeah.
Awaken.
So who is controlling us, right? So
And
actually about the life.
Right.
You know, this is actually a Western philosophy.
Right, no one
Free
talks
will.
about Western philosophy.
Western, right?
Yeah.
So he starts with Platon, Socrates,
Yeah, Socrates.
and then he moved to Marx and Freud and Darwin.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is a little bit complicated philosophy, but he put it
It
in
is.
a way that you can easily understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the part which I like, which is really showing complicated philosophy in a really attractive way to understand easily.
Yeah, it's like just very enticing, the book is. It just like takes them like a kind of I'm not sure, I don't think like roller coaster ride is a right like expression, like
It's more like
Yeah, you can
Like
say
a
it.
good
Yeah, at
walk.
the beginning when she reads the letter from his
Yeah,
teacher,
yeah,
no?
yeah.
It becomes really interesting, right? And then you're waiting to read the next chapter. Right?
yeah.
It's like a roller coaster. You can say that.
Yeah, so like what happened the first time when I was reading this book
Yeah.
was because like, you know, there's like this separate kind of, in a way, non-fiction part of the book, and like there's also like the fictionist part of the book, which the author so cleverly, as you said, merges together.
Yeah.
And then, so what happened was, because like, you know, there's this central riddle going on, right? Like the mystery happening to Sophie. And then so basically what happened the first time I read this book was like, I was like too excited to just like get and try to figure out what was going on and try to solve the riddle that I basically sped through like all the quote unquote, you know, the non-fictional parts because like I just wanted to find out what was going on, right? And then like when I was reading it the first time I was like, okay, I have to read this a second time because that way I can actually, because then I already know what the riddle is, right? So like it's not driving me crazy, and I can actually appreciate
Yes.
the book, like how it's written and like how the author created this basically magical experience that kind of builds and it's just blows your mind in a way.
No, it's good. You get the point. If you read this book, you don't know what is the illusion and what is the reality.
Right.
Yeah? And this makes the things more attractive here. Sometimes if you're reading now where I am, who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, makes question marks all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Yeah. And this makes really, like you said, on a roller coaster. Yeah? It's reading so interesting to understand who really I am, right? What is the illusion? What is the reality? How to identify yourself? How to find yourself? Awaken.
And also like in a similar sense, I like the word enlighten. Like, you know, it's kind of make them, you know, aware of what is going on.
Yeah.
Because like the book uses a metaphor of the whole universe is basically like a magician pulling out like a rabbit from like a hat, right? A white rabbit from the hat, and the book describes like the white rabbit is basically our world, and the magician is who knows, right? And then how the book describes it is that like most people, like we are basically like the bacterial creatures that live inside like the rabbit's fur. And most people just basically snuggle deep down into the rabbit's fur and just stay there. While there are some people, like philosophers, who stand on the very tip of like the white fur of the rabbit and try to look at the magician and see what is going on. Like, how is this rabbit pulled out of the magician's hat? Like, they want to see the magic trick. Whereas the other creatures, they just snuggle deep down there and then they just die, and they're just like, they never actually get to experience or know the wonder like happening around them, right? Which is kind of in a way sad.
I guess, like, the different types of, like, for example, to compare in the, like, on Earth at least, there's like a lot of different types of species, right? And there's humans, but there's also like rabbits.
Yeah.
But rabbits can't understand, like, they can't think philosophically, right? And so I think it's a waste if, like, humans, like, who have the capability of thinking further, don't think further, then like, they're not really experiencing or life.
I see.
But there's also I remember reading. I remember someone else saying like physical health comes first, but then after that you can like deepen your understanding on like,
I mean, like the hierarchy of needs.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because like if you're not like taking care of yourself, like your physical like health, then like taking care of your mental needs will like it's I think it's just the second priority, I think. And I think philosophers in general, they well, I have a question. Like how do you become like a good philosopher?
There's no right answer to that, is it?
I think just ask always the question, what is the meaning of life?
Yeah, it's like
So it's just asking questions.
Asking questions.
Yeah.
Being curious.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And also like that reminds me. I just want to like kind of.
Can I add one sentence?
Yeah, sure.
I think you put one point, which is really very transparent. I think he copied this. You mentioned the fur and the people going, or he's going out of the rabbit's fur, right?
Yes.
Right. So this is actually a transparent metaphor from Platon's cave.
Yeah, I think so as well, right?
You know Platon's cave?
Yeah. It's mentioned in the book.
it's-
actually, yeah.
it's-
So basically, Plato's. It's called the myth of the cave, and like the author retells it as it's basically there's some people living in an underground cave, and then they sit with their backs to the entrance of the cave, so like they're only looking at the back wall of the cave, and then they're tied up, so like they can only look at the back wall of the cave, and they don't see the entrance and basically the outer world, right? And then behind these people, so like near the entrance of the cave, is this wall, and then like behind that wall, like a lot of creatures pass by, like human-like creatures, and then there's a fire. Because like there's also a fire behind the people who are walking behind the wall. It's kind of like a shadow play, puppet play. So like the people facing the back wall of the cave, who are like, you know, who can't see the entrance, they can only see like the shadows of the people and like the stuff going on outside the world, right?
Yeah.
But then because of the fact that it's like they were born this way, they think the shadows that are basically like reflected on the wall is all that has ever existed and happened. And it's like they're like this is everything, right? It's kind of like a frog who has spent its life only in like one well. It's like they think this is everything and there's nothing more to these shadows. Like this is the world and that's it, right? But then yeah, so like so one of the people who are tied up and looking at the back wall of the cave, the shadows, we'll just call them cave dwellers, they manage to free themselves, right? From his bonds, and like the first thing he asks is like, I'm just gonna say he because of like
Okay.
yeah, just like ignore it, please. He's like, where did all these shadows come from, right? And then when he turns around and see the figures like held up above the wall, like where the shadows actually originate from, he's like, oh, S-H-I-T. He's like, oh wow. Shoot, what is this basically, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like saying, because Plato thought that there's always this kind of ideal form to everything. It's like, you know how gingerbread cookies and gingerbread men, like they're all quote unquote the same because like there's made from the same mold, right? But then it's like they're all still kind of different and imperfect because like I mean one can have an arm broken off like that, but then there is still one common root and origin of that quote unquote perfect mold, right?
Yeah.
So what Plato thought was he thought that there was this quote unquote perfect like origin, perfect mold for everything. So like in the myth of the cave, it's like he thought that the shadows is like basically our daily life and what we can see, and he thought that the actual stuff that's happening are like the immortal, perfect, basically molds. I think to say. It's quite difficult to explain because I recommend all of you watching to read Sophie's World. It's an amazing book. But anyways, going back to the myth, the guy who was just untied and freed, he goes outside and he sees everything, and like he sees colors and clear shapes instead of all the shadows he's been seeing his entire life. And then like now he asks himself, okay, but where do all these like colors and shapes come from, right? And then we'll see the sun in the sky and we'll think, okay, this is what gives life to these flowers and animals and stuff like that. Just how like the fire made the shadows visible. And then now, the important part of Plato's myth right now is that this newly freed cave dweller, this guy, could have just like gone skipping towards the countryside with butterflies and could have lived a happy life, right? But what he does is he thinks of like his friends basically stuck in the cave looking at the shadows. And he's like, I gotta convince them that these shadows are like just basically reflections of the real thing, right?
Wait, aren't these people tied to the wall?
Yeah.
A good question. Actually, they have chains.
Well, chained to the wall.
Yeah.
They're looking to the wall and they are with the chain like in a prison. They cannot move.
Yeah.
So they are really stick on the chain. Yeah.
And they were born that way, so like
Yeah,
Is
they're
there-
born.
is there a way
Yes.
How did the guy free himself from the chains?
Exactly. That's the question. To be aware about yourself. Ask always why, and then
Right.
rules.
But like the guy who managed to free himself goes back to his friends who are still tied up, and he's like, guys, these shadows are just like the reflections of the things. It's just they're basically literally just shadows. Like this is not the real deal, right? But then his friends don't believe him. And then they're like, oh, shadows, that's all that's ever existed. Because that's basically all they've ever seen, right? And then finally they kill the guy who was freed and managed to see.
But aren't they?
It's just reflecting the metaphor. Yeah. We are living actually in the cave.
Yeah, it's basically that.
Yeah.
It's like the change, like the unwillingness to change, or
Yes, correct.
closed-minded.
Yeah.
So like the guy who freed hhimself but then got killed in Plato's myth was probably most likely Socrates, his teacher.
Socrates?
Socrates, sorry, the pronunciation. Because like Socrates was killed when he was like basically the wisest man but also the most humblest and modest man in all of themes and like of his generation probably.
So they killed him because he was just proposing new ideas that kind of frightened them.
Something like this.
Yeah, basically. It's like the book describes it as Socrates was killed by the cave dwellers because he disturbed their conventional ideas and tried to light away their true insight. But then, in a way, they were, I guess, like they were too afraid of change, right? They were like, we want to believe what we want to believe. We want to be stuck in the rabbit's fur and like something.
Exactly. This is the cave.
Yeah.
This is
Maybe
exactly
they
the
don't
cave.
want to stay in the cave. They just don't want to leave, or they just want to play it safe.
It's just like, yeah, they're basically afraid of something new, right?
Yeah.
It's just they're happy with what they have because
So,
that's all they've ever
conservative.
seen. Yeah.
Conservative.
Basically, yeah.
Just make a metaphor when you look at the past. You know, if the Christians, for example, right? So how many people they kill to believe them Christian or God is the right way? I mean, if you study history, right? You know the colony, right? So a lot of British people go to some countries and try to change their religion because of their economic situation. So they can sell, they can promote, and make the colony.
I'm sure like most of you watching this video, if you're like around our age, you probably find this intimidating and like kind of, in a way, it's like, it's too complicated, I don't want to think about it. But it's really just, and like you might not even completely understand what we're talking about, which is completely understandable because like, this book just does like such a good job of explaining it like in depth and like clearly, so it's like kind of difficult to replicate it completely. This book will take you on a magical experience. Do not like try to think of all the stereotypes. Oh, this is so hard and complicated. Just like
So don't be like the people who are shamed.
yeah, in a way, just try it out. It's like I promise you, we promise you.
And don't kill your friends.
Yeah, we promise you it will be kind of
Kind of. It will be. It's a really good book.
extremely mystical and beautiful. Like
Mystical.
yeah, and if you're like me and you just want to try to
Mystical, yeah.
like if you just want to figure out what the riddle is and just skip all like the quote unquote boring parts, then I recommend you just like read the book again after a period of time. Cause like
And there's a movie.
oh, there's a movie.
Yes, there's a movie, but
1999.
the movie is not so good like the book.
Yeah, like
It's not I feel it's not written.
Like
Yeah.
most things.
you know, spoiler alert, but it's like the way the book is written, it can never be replicated into a movie. Just read the book, you'll
You're
understand.
the guy.
And then which is very attractive.
Yeah, it's like complex, simple, and attractive.
Yeah. One last word like from the book.
Please.
It's like it's kind of the part where Alberto Knox is explaining like who a philosopher is, right? And it's like the book says, a philosopher is therefore someone who recognizes that there is a lot he does not understand and is troubled by it. Yeah. In that sense, he is still wiser than all those who brag about the knowledge of things they know nothing about. And so it's basically, wisest is she who knows she does not know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I really like this whole kind of quote because like it says Socrates knew that he knew nothing about life and about the world, and then it troubled him that he knew so little. And even though he knew that he knew nothing, he kind of was in a constant endeavor of trying to figure it out, and like at the same time knowing that he still does not know.
Okay.
One note to the audience: we've talked very little about the actual riddle part and the whole like mystery part of the book because we're afraid that we're gonna spoil it for you. So
that's why you mentioned spoiling.
yeah, because it's like we don't want to ruin the kind of their whole journey and experience on this book. Right? How did you feel about being on the council?
Oh, I have to say I get very good paid.
They promise to pay me 20 years later. For
First of all, I love books, and I'm very happy to be here And especially if you read the book, I'm more happy. And if you introduce to a lot of people, so I hope a lot of people more will wait.
Yeah. And I hope they kind of crawl out of the rabbit's fur and like try to stand on the very fine tip.
If they don't, that's also okay.
Thank you, audience, if you actually tuned in and like watched the entire thing. Very impressive.
And our analytics show you don't.
We really hope you read this book. Again, it's just magical, mystical, mysterious, wonderful. Check out Mr. Adnan's company. I don't know, maybe like we can leave the link in the description. All right, so any final thoughts, Ryan?
Not really.
All right, that's perfect. All right, thank you for watching this video.
J&R Books.
Ow, it's all right. Thank you.